Hi there, YouTube. Today I wanted to talk to you about how we can have a healthy gut holistically. So we're going to talk about 3 ways that we can cultivate a healthy gut. Now, if you haven't watched some of my videos about how our gut health can be affected by other things, I'm going to link some of the videos up here and in the description of this video so you can take a look at those after this one. So let's start by talking about prebiotics. So if you've never heard of a prebiotic, what this is this is going to be a food, whole food, not some specialty food item. It's going to be something that has fiber. So the bacteria and yeast and fungi that live in our intestines that are healthy, these are healthy ones, that help us digest things. They help us digest things that we do not have the equipment to digest. So one of the things that we don't have the ability to digest is cellulose, and that is plant fiber. So having food that has plenty of plant fiber in it is going to provide food not for us, but for the bacteria and fungi and yeast in our gut that are going to help with digestion of that as well as other things. If we don't digest cellulose, we can have issues with things like a lot of gas, we can have diarrhea, and that's because cellulose just kind of passes through our body, and with it, it can gather water. So it can attract water to itself, kind of like glucose can, and so that can cause issues in our gut that are uncomfortable. So prebiotics are really helpful in feeding our gut bacteria and making sure that we have the proper diversity of them. And that will prevent things like infections and, like I talked about in this video, UTIs, yeast infections, and other problems that we can have of our female health and organs. So probiotics are great, and I'll talk about those next, but prebiotics is really going to be where we can lay the foundation for some of these foods that will help us be able to sustain healthy guts. So within prebiotics, we can have fiber from food sources. We can have fiber that we ingest, we add to water and you mix it up and you drink it. That's not going to be as good as having food as a whole package with fiber in it, things like lettuce or carrots or potatoes. And the other thing that we can add into our diet that can really help, that is a prebiotic, is dandelion root tea. And this can help with a lot of other things. It can help support liver detoxification and liver health, but it is something we can even eat dandelion root. Please make sure that it's not a treated dandelion that you're eating. It's one that it's free of chemicals, but dandelion root is also a very good prebiotic as well and can help support our gut health. So these are some of the ways that we can help support with prebiotics. Okay, so next is probiotics. Now, I think most people these days, when they hear probiotics, they're going to think of a little capsule that you take or some type of special supplement, and it doesn't have to be. So we can have probiotics that are whole foods, things like sauerkraut and yogurt and kimchi. But the thing is, if we have gut dysbiosis, that means that your gut is out of symbiosis. So those bacteria and fungi aren't symbiotically working. So if we're out of whack, then we might need a little bit more support in providing a higher level number of cultures for our intestines. And that's when probiotic supplements would come into play. But we can have maintenance level things like sauerkraut and yogurt and kimchi and other things that are fermented like kombucha that help to seed our gut intestine microflora with healthy bacteria and provide them with things that will help to kind of provide an environment that they want to live in. So this is part of what I mean by probiotics. And we also have probiotic supplements, as I've mentioned. I personally really like BioK, which is a drinkable supplement. It has a high level of microflora in it and cultures, but it also is something that I have felt for me, I have it before I go to sleep, and that way it'll be the last thing in my body and it'll spend the longest amount of time going through, and so it will have a higher likelihood of having cultures go in there. But if someone's looking for a capsule, it is really good to look for enteric coated capsules, and that means that instead of that capsule dissolving in your stomach, it's going to dissolve in your intestines, and that's because they have two different environments. Your stomach is acidic, your intestines are alkaline, and that's on purpose. They balance each other out. Stomach acid goes into the intestines, it gets balanced out with alkaline, and then it'll be in an alkaline environment. And so that enteric coating will only dissolve in a alkaline environment. So that means that we can have those cultures get directly into our intestines. We know that they won't be destroyed by our stomach acid, which is a potential with drinkable versions. So it just means that drinkable versions, we might have a lower likelihood of having some of those cultures make it to the intestines, but it's not impossible for all of them to make it there. And I did want to also talk a little bit, because our gut health can influence our microbiome in other parts of our body, especially as women. We can have bacterial vaginosis, we can have yeast infections. And one of the things that we can do to help promote vaginal health is if we're having some of those issues like yeast infections, we're going to be using things that are going to be antifungals. And then, so that's going to kill off the bad fungus or yeast, and then we can reintroduce a proper balance by using vaginal suppositories that are probiotics. So those are things that can be inserted vaginally, and that can help rebalance our microbiome in our female organs that otherwise might not be taken into consideration. And that could lead to things like chronic UTIs, chronic yeast infections, if someone is taking medications and not trying to bring balance and restoring proper balances of healthy bacteria, fungi, and yeast. So these are things to consider that people might not be thinking of all the time if they're in that situation, because their doctor might not bring it up. So the last thing that I wanted to talk about is kind of some foundational ways that we can support gut health. And these might be seemingly simple, but they can be really impactful. The first one is chewing our food, and we want to start with top-down mentality. How can we develop gut health from the beginning? So one is eating whole foods, as I mentioned, with fiber, but also chewing that food and helping our body by breaking that down as much as we can in our mouth before it gets into our stomach. That is going to help support proper stomach acid production, and eating whole foods, and especially things like apple cider vinegar, can help with supporting digestion and proper stomach acidity. And those things are going to set the stage for having a proper pH level of that food that's passing from our stomach into our intestines, getting balanced out by some of that alkaline excretions that our pancreas puts out. And that means that we'll then have the proper pH level traveling down into our large intestines, where we have our microflora mostly, and that's going to help with digestion there and further elimination. So those are things that we can do at the beginning: chewing, having whole foods, and making sure that we're having things that are going to help promote proper stomach pH. Apple cider vinegar is really great for that and can help reduce some acid reflux, ironically, but that can really help with toning our stomach acid in our stomach's environment. And last but not least, reducing food allergies. So if you want to watch this video up here about elimination diets and how that can be started so you can find out what foods you might be allergic to, I love that guide that I created a while ago, so you can be able to have that as a reference. But reducing food allergies can really help, because that means that our gut won't be reacting and being inflamed from foods that it's sensitive to and really is having a chronic inflammatory response to. So reducing those and pulling those out can mean that our tight junctions can start to heal and seal back up. It also means that our nervous system and our immune system is not going to be overburdened by having a lot of food particles from leaky gut syndrome passing through. So really that can overall help support our gut health and our overall health as well. So I hope that these might be some useful tips for you to get going on supporting your gut health in this upcoming year. If you liked this video, I would love for you to click the little like button and help it get out to some more people and give it a little nudge. And I hope that until next time, you're able to be well.